Learn how to factor a quadratic trinomial x squared plus bx plus c. So your a term is always going to be 1. C term is going to be the key, and you're going to find the factors of c. Has to match the middle term, your b term, as you're factoring. And so basically you're going to take your trinomial and you're going to factor it down into two binomials. And you're going to do this basically using FOIL. All right? You're going to factor it down into two binomials and then use FOIL to check to see if you are correct. All right, so let's take a look at the first one. We have some different situations. If you have a plus at the end, which means your C term is positive. If your C term is positive, then your signs are going to be the same, and it's based off of the middle term. If your B term is positive, then you're going to have two positives. If your B term is negative, like in the second example, then you're going to have two negatives. So let's take a look at these two situations. So what I got to do is I'm going to break it down into two binomials. Now I can set a lot of this stuff up. I can say x, and I know my signs are going to be the same. I know they're both going to be plus. So I'm going to set up my two binomials. Now I got to look at the factors of 15. I have 1 and 15, all right, and I have 3 and 5. Now together, I add those together, and they need to match the middle term. Well, 1 plus 15 is 16, so that's not going to work. 3 and 5 is 8, so that is going to work. So I put 3 in here, I put 5 in here, and I have factored my trinomial. X plus 3. When I take 3 times x, I get 3x. When I take x times 5, I get 5x. Together, that gets me 8x. 3 times 5 gets me back to the 15, and x times x gets me back to the x squared. In the second example here, now we have same situation. We have a plus c term, but we have a negative b term. So in this case, now my signs are still going to be the same, but instead of both being positive, they're going to be negative. And again, we look at the factors of 20. We got 1 and 20. Well, 1 and 20 is 21. We look at 2 and 10. 2 and 10 is 12. That doesn't match 9. 4 and 5, that does match 9. So we put 4 in here. We put 5 in here. And again, we can always check to see if we got it right. And yes, we do. We have 4x, a negative 4x. We have a negative 5x. That equals a negative 9. Negative 4 times a negative 5 gets me a positive 20. And that's why the signs can be the same. So that's how we do it when we have a plus at the end. We add the factors of c to see about our middle term. Now, down below, we have minus at the end. This isn't quite as easy. All right, you still got to find the factors of c, but your signs will be different. So you're going to have one plus and one minus. And you need to find the difference in the factors of c, and that has to equal your b term. So let's take a look at the two situations. Here we have minus, minus. So, again, we can set up our trinomial, or our binomials. All right. I know I'm going to have x times x to start off these binomials because I have x squared to get back to. Now my signs are going to be different. Now I can put my signs in here. I can go plus here and I can go minus here. Now I got to look at my factors of 9. 9 and 1, all right, and 3 and 3. Now in this case I have to subtract these factors and I have to match my middle term of a negative 8x. Well, 9 minus 1 gets me 8. So I'm going to use 9 and 1 because I can get back to 8x. Now, since it's a negative, all right, my larger of my two factors, which is 9, has to be the negative one. So I put 9 here, and I put 1 here. Now let's just double check. 1 times x is 1x. X times 9 is a negative 9x. That gets me back to 8x. 1 times a negative 9 gets me back to a negative 9. Now this one says solve the equation by factoring. So again, I have to set this equal to 0, and I'm going to use the zero product property. So I go x plus 1 is equal to 0, and I solve that, and I end up with x is equal to a negative 1. And then same thing over here. I got x minus 9 is equal to 0. I add 9 to both sides, and I get x is equal to 9. So my quadratic is x is equal to 9, and x is equal to a negative 1. That's where my parabola would cross my x-axis. In the fourth example, again, we have the last situation you have where we have a negative c term, but we got a positive b term. So the same situation occurs. We set it up. We got our x. I could put x plus here. I could go x minus here. All right, now I got to look at the factors of 18. 1 and 18 will get me 17. That doesn't match. 3 and 6, when I subtract them, that gets me 3. All right. What else do we have here? So yeah, we have 6 and 3, that gets me 3, so that's what we want to use. 9 and 2 would get me 7, so we got to use 6 and 3. Now again, the middle term is positive, so my larger number 6 needs to go with the positive. My smaller factor 3 goes with the negative. And again, we can get back to 3x there. Again, we're going to solve this quadratic by factoring, so we have to set this equal to 0. All right, put this equal to 0. We'll set each of these equal to 0. Now, in a lot of these, when they're pretty simple like this, we know that this is going to be x is equal to a negative 6, and we know this one, when I add 3 to both sides, x is going to be equal to 3. So that is factoring a quadratic trinomial. And the second part, again, you solve an equation by factoring. So you always make sure you read and understand the directions. If it says factor the trinomial, you just have to put it into two binomials. If it says to solve the equation by factoring, you need to put it into the binomials and then use the zero product property and solve the quadratic.